Well, it's a nice day in early September 2003, and I can still see red tomatoes on the vine outside the window here at Park Avenue in Olivetti in Plattsburgh. We have spent quite a few of our hours recording our little corner programs with North Country artisans. And it seems like every time we turn a corner, we meet somebody who's got extreme talent that a lot of their friends may not know about. And after we did a couple of programs with an Adirondack wood turner up in Schuyler Falls, I got a telephone call from Mary and Caron one day saying, "My husband does wood turning." And I said, "Howie does wood turning? I thought he sailed boats." "Yeah, well, he does that too. And he'd love to have you come down here and do a program." And so we conferred, and we came down here, and we're delighted to be here today. Howie, how are you?
Very good.
I'm delighted to see you again. Howie and I became friends probably 30 years ago or more.
Try
maybe?
35 or 40 years ago.
35 or 40 years ago. When did you become a trooper?
1965.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's been a while.
I had already been in the radio business for 4 years then, and you and I conferred back and forth, and I relied on information from local troopers to put news stories on the air on the local radio station.
Right.
And
we also did a little stint with Troop 35 Boy Scouts too.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
I certainly do now that you mention it. I have to pick it out of the hard drive down. Yeah, we've talked about Boy Scouts a lot because, as a matter of fact, I was listening to a Vermont Public Radio station this morning talking about Boy Scouts and somebody who was mentoring a whole group of Boy Scouts, and I don't even know where it was, let's say somewhere in Vermont, and he has a barn, and in that barn is everything every scout needs in his local troop to go toward these merit badges. And that's his contribution to the community, is to buy all these things, get the troops in there and let them work on their merit badges and to help them do it. That's a pretty nice thing.
Admirable.
Admirable. I've known a lot of people in the Boy Scouts here. I was in a Boy Scout troop as a youth way back when in Messina at the Methodist Church, and we had a local unit at the Methodist Church in town, right?
Right. Troop 35.
Troop 35. So.
Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I was Troop 39. I was in Troop 35 in Saranac, and then I transferred down to Troop 39 at the Methodist Church here in Plattsburgh.
Well, you see? And my troop was Troop 30-something, and when I was about, maybe 50 years old, my mother sent me a little care package, and in that little care package, when I opened it up, was every one of my merit badges she had saved in a drawer somewhere.
I just gave all my paraphernalia to my grandson, who is down in Delaware. He just made Eagle Scout last year.
That's pretty neat, too. That's pretty neat, too. I didn't go that far because I was let's just say I was a bit of a miscreant. You'll have to look that up in your Funkin' Wagnall today. But I got a bunch of merit badges, and I certainly enjoyed the experience. And then my dad, as a minister, moved the family away, and that was the end of my Boy Scout career, probably at age 14 or so.
Well, I was in Troop 35, joined the Navy in 1956, and I never got back into it until about 1960. Well, it was around 67 or 68. I started back in scouting as a scoutmaster, and I started with Troop 35 up in Saranac because that's where I originally started. And a friend of mine was running Troop 39 down here, and it was not doing well, so he asked me if I'd transfer down. I was living here in Plattsburgh, so why not? So I took over the troop, and it turned out to be a pretty good deal.
It's nice to be able to touch young lives in a wholesome way, and for all the people I know, many who are prominent businessmen and even politicians who remember fondly the time they spent in the Boy Scouts. So,
well, I know that the Boy Scouts down here, we put quite a few Eagles out, and most of them have done extremely well. Just try to follow their careers, and they've done excellent.
You can go online and check out the lists of Eagle Scouts and where they are in the business and political world, and it's neat to see how many of your favorite actors, politicians, business people, international sports heroes, and so on, who who credit a lot of what they are today with their Boy Scout experience. So
Is that right?
we didn't intend to start this as a big plug for the Boy Scouts, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah, it's
I'm
a
glad we
great
did.
outfit.
The camping experience in the Boy Scouts for me was always
I'll bet you
wonderful.
can't. Can you boil water without burning it?
I don't know if I could now, and I'd probably drown if I tried to hold
Or
myself
can you
up in the
boil
water.
water in a paper bag?
We learned to do a lot of things, and we were very self-sufficient in those days. But anyway, I just want to finish the beginning of this program by saying that you had a great career in the state police that was cut short by a horrible injury. You were hurt.
Right.
1976, apprehending a rapist down
Right.
in, where was that, Port Kent?
Port Kent.
Port Kent. And that was a terrible moment for me, and I know it was a horrible moment for you.
Well, it ended my career.
It ended your career, but that door closed and a new door opened.
After a fact, yes. It
After
took me
a
a
while.
while to get back on my feet, and I had to have something to do with my time, and I got into woodworking, but I had been doing some woodworking for around the house. I build pieces of furniture and things, and I've always had a lathe, but really never quite knew what I was doing with it. I mean, it was sort of self-taught, made a lot of dumb mistakes, and then about 9 years ago, we were in Florida, and I ran into, in fact, we were at a craft show, and there was a couple of wood turners there, and I started talking to him. He says, I said, I've got a lathe, but I'm really not quite sure what I'm doing. And he says, oh, hey, why don't you come down and join our club? So I went down. They meet every third Thursday of the month, and it's called the Gulf Coast Wood Turners of Southern Florida. And I joined and found out these people are all professionals. I mean, professional wood turners. They make their living doing this. And so one guy took me under his wing and taught me a heck of a lot. So here I am.
And now, do you ever associate with these people? Do you communicate
Oh,
with
yeah,
them?
all the time, through the internet, plus through phone calls, plus I live in Florida for 3 months out of the year, January, February, and March, and I attend their meetings while I'm there. And also, we are affiliated with another club called the West Palm Beach Wood Turners. And then there is another club that I belong to here in the North Country. It's the Woodchuck Wood Turners of Northern Vermont. And they're a great bunch of guys.
There's good camaraderie among people who do this.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
And we're just now getting into it, having done 2 shows before with a wood turner, and we're delighted to be here today. And I can't wait to get more into the life, loves, and passions of Howie Caron, who is a multifaceted talent and a terrific guy and a good friend. Stay with us. All right, we're down in the basement, in the bowels of Howie's house, if you will. And this is, Marion said, that's his domain down there. She wanted our viewers to know that any messes down here, and she has nothing to do with.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I have to clean it up.
And then I came
and
down.
she reminds me, too.
I came downstairs and walked in the room, and there was a mat on the floor that said "Crafty Lady," and I didn't know if that referred to her or your boat. And then you told me.
Well, she was a crafty lady, but the boat is also named Crafty Lady.
I should tell people now as just an aside, but not an aside because it's part of who Howie Caron is. You love sailboats. And you have for
very much so.
a long time.
Oh, gosh, as far as I can remember, in the Navy. When I come out of the Navy, I started sailing, and in fact, I ended up with a 32-foot sailboat that there was 10 of us that owned it. It came from Blue Mountain Lake, or no, one of the lakes up in the Adirondacks. They sail these items up there. Oh, St. Regis Lake, that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
And they still have races twice a week up there with these antique boats that were built in the early 1900s.
Oh boy, we did a show at Blue Mountain Lake at the Adirondack Museum, and they have quite a few wonderful old Adirondack guide boats and so on there, and they're really quite beautiful.
They are. My son has one,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I gave it to him for his 16th birthday. I picked it up in Malone from an elderly gentleman that was trying to, he was getting rid of it. Sold it to me for $100.
You got to be kidding. I should have known you'd fall into a deal like
Well,
that.
I knew the guy from many, many years ago, and he had the boat, and I says to him, Elvie, if you ever decide you want to get rid of it, I said, let me know. Well, he got pretty sick, and he called me up, and he says, you want that boat? You can have it for $100. So
Oh, my.
Ricky and I went up, and I picked it up for him.
Did you have to refinish it?
No, he did.
He did,
He
really?
did. Yeah, he hit it. Ricky did it by himself.
It was good shape when he
Well,
started? or-
Well, we had to take it up to Hathaway up in Saranac Lake to
Yes.
do some extra work on it. But he replaced, 13 ribs and some planking.
Every time I see one or see a smaller version on the top of somebody's van or something, I look at it and you can tell that somebody's had their loving
Oh, yeah.
hands on there. TLC on that boat.
Well, we got to curate a Blue Mountain Lake Museum, and we took the boat up, and he decided it was built in the middle to the late 1800s.
Wow.
So the boat's worth
Wow.
quite a bit of money.
Oh, isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Okay, we're down here. We got a lot of special woods here, and you told me before we started the camera that you do a lot of things with exotic woods. What the heck does that mean?
Okay, exotic woods are woods that are grown in South America, Central America, Africa, Australia. They're all harvested plantation woods now. They don't go in and cut trees down for the sake of cutting them, or clearing.
Yes.
So what they do is they now harvest them. They have plantations, and this is what we get our wood from. I use most of my exotic woods for my pepper mills.
Well, this is a whole separate thing. As you know, we've talked a lot about wood turning, bowl turning.
Yep.
But you've done lots of different things, and all of a sudden, how long ago did you get into this pepper mill?
April.
April of this year.
Yeah.
I want to explain that to me as you explained it to me on the telephone. It's amazing how things happen.
Well, we were sitting in our apartment in Florida, and my wife was watching the cooking channel, which is Home or Food Network.
Yep.
Anyhow, this lady was on by the name of Sarah Moulton, and
Sure.
my wife says, "Come quick, you got to see this." So I jumped up from the computer that I was playing with and went over, and I didn't see anything. I just saw the lady talking. So she says, "Well, you got to sit here and watch." So I sat and watched for about 15 minutes, and she had about 4 or 5 of these pepper mills on. And Marion says, "Honey, you got to make me one of those." So I said,
That's where it
"Okay."
starts, honey. You got to make me one of those.
Yeah, I got the honey-do list,
Yeah, yeah. So,
So anyhow, I says, well, okay, and I started trying to find out where I could get these parts and who made the mill to begin with. And so after all the searching around for about 2 weeks, I found out it was a guy by the name of Pinky Martin out of Alabama. He was 82 or 83 years old, and he's got 1,000 orders ahead of him. So-
he better live.
Well,
Like Ardo Monaco, he better live to be 130.
so I figured, well, I'll not get one from him, so I'll make one. And so I found out where I can get the pepper mill mechanisms, and they're all made in the United States, and they're all stainless steel. They're excellent. And anyhow, I got a hold of the company, and that's how I got started. So I got home in April, and I started making them. I think I made probably half a dozen. And of course, the first one I made, I sold, it was a demo. It was made out of black walnut, or black cherry.
A demo pepper mill.
Yeah, I got one of those too. And anyhow, this gentleman came up and he says he wanted that. And I said, "You sure you don't want one of these nice exotic wood pepper mills?" No, I want this one. It's black cherry. So we sold it to him, and so I had to make another demo. I made one out of oak this time.
Oh,
so,
did you?
Yeah. But that's how I got started with those pepper mills, and I've had a lot of fun with them. And I've gotten rid of 28 of them so far.
Have you 28 so
Yeah.
far?
And I've
one-
got orders for more.
One of your friends and my friends said, "You got to talk to Howie about pepper mills. This guy's going nuts. He's going to be the world champion pepper mill maker."
Not really, because there's a bunch of them on the internet.
Are there?
Yeah, there's quite a few exotic wood pepper mill makers, and their prices are kind of high compared to what I sell mine for.
Yeah.
I mean, they get double what I sell.
Well,
But that's okay. Basically what I'm doing is I'm using the money that I get from the pepper mills to buy more wood
of course, and
and more mechanisms.
you told me we can't, whatever we do in this program, we have to whisper.
Don't say anything that I've got a big load of exotic wood coming.
And we can't tell Marion that, and we
Well, she'll
certainly
know
don't want any of our viewers to tell
She'll
her.
know it when the tractor trailer pulls out.
Oh, no, tractor trailer. First clue, it's either how are we moving or did you buy some wood?
That'll probably more did I buy wood.
So what do you do with all this wood?
Okay, I slice it down. I resaw. I'll pull a piece out here. You can see what I do.
Yeah.
I buy the wood. It's usually 4/4, which is rough stock. I plane it,
Look at the
and then
look at the pattern.
Okay, this is called lace wood, and this is comes from Central America. And
I love it.
it's got some beautiful grain pattern to it. Now
yes.
this is rift sawn, and if you get it quarter sawn, it's even prettier.
I would have no idea what those two things mean.
Okay, well, rift sawn is if they take a log and you run right down the center of it and just keep slicing slabs
Oh, I
off.
see. Okay, I gotcha.
Okay, quarter sawn is they'll cut the log in 4 quarters, and each quarter is resawn, and that's called quarter sawn.
Okay.
It's more expensive. It's the wood is a lot better. You don't get as much movement with it, but it's a lot more expensive to do. And I do have some quarter sawn stuff here, but I try to avoid it if I can possibly do.
Obviously, you're not making bowls out of this stuff.
No.
What are you making?
Oh, these are all pepper mills. Right
Those
here.
are all pepper mills.
Right. What you see here is all pepper mill stock. Now up here I make also lazy Susans and cutting boards, and I also use exotic woods.
Now, cutting boards,
can show you those
you don't
later.
make a cutting board out of a single piece of wood. You make it
I
out of
laminate it up.
Laminate it.
Yeah, usually there's about anywhere from 12 to 16 pieces of wood glued up together.
I've seen some of the nice ones in stores and in catalogs, and use different colors, different grains.
And all the wood that you see here is also, this is not dyed wood at all.
Just the way it is.
Yeah.
Isn't
By the
that
way, there's
amazing?
this is an example right here of quarter sawn
Oh, I see it.
lacewood right here.
Lacewood.
See the
Okay.
difference between
Yes,
that and
of
here?
course I do.
Yeah. Okay, this
Look
is
at this.
this is Purple Heart, and this is another wood called Paduke. It's P-A-D-A-U-K.
And that's not stained?
No, this is all natural wood.
Isn't that amazing?
No, I don't use any stains at all in my cutting boards. They're all natural woods. They say they're all exotic woods too.
So this is a process of learning for you as you go, isn't it?
Oh yeah, so much.
You do internet research. You know
Some.
where to buy. Obviously, know where to get the best prices on
Yeah,
wood.
I get it all over. I go to Canada. In fact, this truckload I've got coming from Olean, New York.
I've been there many times. Spent a lot of time in Olean in the olden days.
So when I talked to the guy yesterday, he says, I'm sending it to you. I'm building up a pallet of wood now. And I says, a pallet? He says, yeah. He says, you ordered quite a bit. He says, so I'm going to send it common carrier. He said, because it costs too much UPS or FedEx. So,
UPS aren't supposed to lift more than 70 pounds at a time.
well, it's going to be a little bit more. And then he said to me, he says, is there any possibility? He says, you can go to the terminal and pick it up. And I says, sure. He says, it'll save you some extra bucks. So anytime you can save money, it's, looks better in your pocket than it does somebody else's. So
You got to take the truck.
yeah, I'll borrow my son-in-law's truck.
Oh, is that the way it works?
Yeah. So I'll borrow his truck, go get it, and then haul it down here.
Okay, before we really get into the nitty-gritty here,
Sure.
you've mentioned about 5 things that you make. What else have you made over the years?
Oh gosh, I do furniture also. I've made desks from both of my grandsons. One from a couple things for my daughter. Pieces for Marion. I can show you those pieces upstairs when we go back
And we'll
up.
go and see them. But your first love is
It's wood turning now. I mean, it's gotten to the point where, I used to, I could get totally immersed in here 7 days a week, 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day. And, just making furniture and things. But I really get, when I come down here, I forget the world is even going around.
We've talked about our people's perception of time. And the old phrase, time flies when you're having fun. When you're immersed in something you have a passion about, the time goes by and all of a sudden it's midnight.
Well, I usually get up before then. but like at lunchtime, I don't even know what time it is. I take my watch off, and Marion will start yelling at me, "You coming up for lunch?" And what time is it? It's usually around 1 o'clock by that time. Or at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'll say, well, maybe I better check the time. So I start cleaning up down here. It takes me about half an hour after I get all through the turnings. So, and you'll see why as we get.
Believe me, when we talked to Mr. Gadway,
Ken?
I was hiding behind things because you talk about where the chips fall. They were whizzing by my head.
Oh, they
were. He had curtains everywhere, and he had giant blowers to suck the wood chips and sawdust away. And
you have to,
I said,
because
this is a dangerous business, Calvin. The only time when I was a little more afraid was when they raised the flagpole recently on Crab Island, and we looked at this 6,000-pound flagpole with John Rock and his wonderful motley crew trying to get that thing up there by hand. And Calvin and I were calculating. Let's see if it's that tall, and we're here. Yep, we're going to be killed. Let's move back about 15 feet.
Well,
Fortunately, nothing untoward happened, but we weren't taking any
that was a
chances.
fantastic undertaking that they did.
It's wonderful. And being an ex-serviceman, especially in the Navy, you can appreciate
Oh, yeah.
what the Battle of Plattsburgh was all about. Is what we think one of the most famous naval battles of all time. So
Yeah, that was fantastic, yes.
we have a lot of history here in the North Country, and
Oh,
Calvin
so
and I
much.
really love to get into it. But
I love history, too.
we also love to tell stories. Your story,
This is history.
tall tales. This is history.
Yep.
This is history, and I'll mention for the benefit of our viewers who will say, yes, it was. One of the most sterling of all shows that Calvin has done was at a sawmill. What was his name?
Jimmy Misek.
Jimmy
with Bob
Masick
Venn,
Sawmill was located.
on the Misek Road in Morris Forks.
And the late Bob Venn, who preceded me in doing this kind of show with Calvin, went up there, and it just turned out to be an absolute classic because of the way Jimmy spoke and the native intelligence that he had about the business. And the more times you show it, the more people comment to me on the street, "I love that show you did." I said, I didn't do anything with that show, but I love to watch it as much as you do. So everybody's got a story. And today it's the Howie Caron story.
Well, thanks for coming down anyhow.
Well, we'd love to.
Appreciate
We
it.
want to see more. Where do you
Okay.
want to start? What do you want to show us
you
first?
can see this is the business end of where I work.
Okay,
And,
I'm coming in here.
As you can
Oh
As you
boy.
can see, and I know like Ken has curtains all over, I do too, mainly to keep the chips from being spread all over the place, as you well remember. When they start flying, they go crazy.
Yeah.
Now this piece right here is on, this is Norfolk Island pine, and I bought that in Florida. I shouldn't say bought, I brought it from Florida. The club that I belong to, we have,
Pretty hard to get that on an airplane, isn't it?
I brought that back in my
Oh,
my
I
car.
was being facetious.
I brought back wood in the
Have you
airplane.
really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I've done that too.
Guy at customs says, "What is that?" "Oh, it's just a piece of wood." Yeah,
I wouldn't be
sure.
I wouldn't be the only guy in the world that's done that. Most of the wood turners I know, they find a piece
That they
that's
like.
really they'll pick it up and bring it home.
I love it.
I brought wood back from Hawaii on an
Really?
airplane.
Oh my goodness.
Well, anyhow, I bring this back from Florida, and when I come home this summer, or actually this spring, I had over 1,000 pounds of wood in the back of my Pathfinder.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was squeaking pretty heavy.
Oh my goodness.
So this is what I'll be turning, and
What are you going to make out of this?
I'm probably going to make a vase out of it. Now with the Norfolk Island pine, you notice that I've got there's a line here. I just put the line on to see if the
Got
knots are.
numbers on it.
Well, I
Every
want to
knot
make sure.
numbered?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure that they're sometimes you get 5 knots, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't counting twice, so I just numbered them as I did.
I love it.
But I lined up to make sure that the knots will show when I turn this down. So, you want me to start turning?
I would love to see
Okay.
something.
All right, let me get my smock on here, because when I turn, I mean, I get sawdust all over and shavings and everything, and
Yep.
I'm gonna take and turn this base down to a spigot, so I can get this onto this.
Oh my goodness!
With
Look at
this
the
chuck.
size of this chuck.
Well, that's a good sized chuck.
Yeah, I would say.
So I'll be able to turn it down, and we'll do that, and then I'll probably finish it off later on today.
Okay, great. Go for it.
See how much quieter this one is compared to the other one?
Oh yeah. It's a Cadillac. That's absolutely amazing. And I watched that as it came off. You know, when we were kids, we used to see if we could
Peel an apple.
peel an apple and not break the
Yeah, I
peel.
remember that.
And as I saw that coming off like a streamer,
Now you see why I keep curtains around here.
I would say you wouldn't want the peanut gallery over in that direction unless they wanted a face full of this stuff.
Yeah, this is going to be.
Let me look over here. Calvin, come over on this side.
If you can move, you want me to move this right
No, that's fine. I was looking at your tools and what a clever way you had for storing them.
here? Also keeps the dirt, from building up on them.
You know, it's something we mentioned before, and we can mention it again, how important the right tools are and how sharp they have to be.
I keep them sharp. Yeah, I sharpen them every day before I start.
Do you really?
The only reason why I can do that is because these are sharp tools. If you had a dull tool, you'd be getting would be sawdust just like this.
Have you ever had a blade break on you?
Oh yes.
That could be a little scary.
I'll show you the tool that I broke. In fact, Ken and I were talking about this a while back. Now this is called a roughing gouge, and I was on the lathe turning, and it was really, really heavy. It was banging around. It snapped the shank right here
Oh, you've got to be kidding.
and drove it into my hand.
Oh, yeah, I'm not happy. I'm not really happy that I asked you to, because this is one of those things we can tell the kids don't try this at home.
This is a razor sharp tool, and
That's why I ask. It's not without its possible consequences.
oh no, they can break, but this was what they call a cast tool.
Oh, I see.
So it broke right at the tang here, and fortunately Robert Sorby tools are made in England, and they replaced it with no problem at all.
Really?
Of course, when they saw my hand, they figured maybe they'd better replace it.
Did you have to get a couple of stitches?
Oh yeah, a couple.
Amazing. He just throws that offhand away.
Well, if you can get over here, I can, you can see me working in here.
Yeah.
I'll try to, why don't we just let me move this?
Okay. We're going again. What are you going to do now?
Okay, I'm just going to pare it down until I can make this spigot a little bit smaller.
Okay. Amazing process. It almost looks like it's made out of butter, but we know better, don't we, Calvin?
Yes. of it because I'll take a little bit more off, and then this will be able to hold the piece when I come to
That's the base.
reverse
That'll be
it.
the base of
This
it.
will be the base,
Ah.
and the chuck will fit right onto here.
Oh, I see. Okay. I
And
got you.
that's why I'm making it large enough, because this is quite a bit of mass. This piece weighs about 65 pounds.
Does it really? And it started out more than that.
Not really.
Not really.
Once I debarked it, and I just took a little bit off, by the bark on these is about a half-inch thick.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, it's
Wow.
so.
You have to age. Did you have to age the wood, dry it out a lot before you start?
Actually, this is soaking wet.
Is
When I
it?
start getting into this thing, I'll be getting wet. The water will be coming right off of it.
No kidding.
So what I do when I get the tree, the timber is cut, and I put it in plastic bags, and because this particular wood seeps a big white sap, it comes out in real thick sap, and it's sticky and it just gets all over everything. So I bag it and put it away, and then when I'm ready to take it home, just throw it in the back of the car. And this piece is going to be beautiful because all this, what you see, these black strings in here, is called spalting. And I noticed down here in the base, and if you can see this, Calvin, or not, you can see it's black in through here,
Oh yeah.
all the way around. And that will add to the color, and then when I put the finish on it, it will really stand out. It'll be a beautiful piece. So let me just take a little bit more off in this, and then we can
Okay,
go on
let's
to
do it.
something else. Okay, I think we're pretty well done there. I'll do the finish shaping on it later on, but what I'm going to do is, if I get my pencil here, the shape on this thing, the way it is, it'll be probably looking like this. With a little tiny
Lip on it.
lip on it here. And then where the knots are, this will enhance it. It'll just come like right around. You'll see the knots right in here.
Oh.
So that's what this piece will probably end up looking like. And then I'll put a small foot onto the base of it here.
Now, how do you come up with a concept for what this bowl will look like? Does the wood determine that? The shape of the wood, or the?
Pretty much, but you know, if it was longer, I could probably make a deeper piece out of it. But in this case here, it's short. It's only, I think, about 10 or 12 inches. So I'm going to get rid of most of this mass up here. We won't even see this. What you're going to see when this piece is finished will be the knots going in this direction.
Ah.
And this is what, I'll show you what a Norfolk Island pine piece looks like, a finished piece. And then you can determine what this would probably end up looking like.
I would imagine the time you spend on each bowl varies a great deal depending on what you want to end up with, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, this particular piece is going to take me some time. I mean, the outside is not a problem. It's when I go on the inside and start taking all the fill out in the inside of it, and then I use a deep boring bar, and you can see some of my tools right here. These are my boring bars,
Oh yes.
and some I made and some I bought. So
Like I said, some of this you can't learn off the internet.
no.
I mean, unless you watch another guy who's as good as you are, or almost as good, or better than you are, if that would be possible.
Oh yeah, there's better people than me, and
But you mostly have to learn by the seat of your pants.
pretty much, you know, you learn the basics, and then you can, you know, go from the basics on. And then, you know, what the old saying is, necessity is the mother of invention.
Of course.
So you start thinking, well, maybe I better try something different. Now, I've got a hook tool also that a buddy of mine down in Florida, the guy that taught me pretty much what I know, he invented this little tool. It doesn't look like much, but when you start hollowing out on the inside, this takes out a massive amount of material in a short period of time.
And it cuts on one side.
Cuts just the way you put it in, just like so, and you hold it just like this, and you just give it a little bit of a twist, and it just cuts right from here.
Isn't that amazing?
And again, you'll see pieces of material coming out looking just like this, only it'll be probably more round. But
Sometimes it's hard to have a steady hand, isn't it, inside when you're working inside?
well, it helps. It also helps to have a little bit of muscle.
Well, I notice you look at Gadwin, I look at you, and you're both big guys. He's got massive arms like a blacksmith, because you're wrestling with tools
Right.
and pieces of wood, and you better.
Well, you got to have a little bit of, have a little bit of muscle
Yeah.
to hold them in. But the guy that my friend down in Florida, Mitch Wallach, he's a little short guy, probably about 5'6", 5'7", skinnier than a rail,
Really?
but he's got arms on him like this.
Like Popeye, huh?
Oh my God! I think he takes his spinach in the morning.
Oh,
when he
you
goes
do,
to work.
huh? That's great. Yeah, like any other hobby or profession, you have to have the right tools. And I suppose you're adding tools every once in a while.
Yes.
Pick up something new.
Much to my wife's dismay, because when I say, "Well, I need this tool," how much is that one? You know, a couple $100. Well, it doesn't take long to accumulate a few tools.
That puts me in mind of Tony Vaccaro, Dr. Vaccaro, whose passion is now,
Old cars.
the Lozier automobile.
Right.
You don't buy a Lozier for $12 or even $200, and his. Sometimes our wives are what we call long-suffering.
Yeah. Well, Marion, she really doesn't. She doesn't squawk too much about my buying the tools. In fact, she'll ask me what tool do I want for Christmas. Well, last year I said, well, I wanted an air compressor. She says, no, not buying an air compressor. Well, look at that right there.
That's a good one.
She didn't buy it. I did.
Did you?
Yeah, because I needed it. I use it basically for sanding and grinding.
Oh, you do?
And
I
also
would say
for
that
cleanup.
a tool like that would be indispensable in a shop like
Oh, it is. I mean, I use it for a lot of purposes. I do a lot of sanding with it. And this is all my sanding. What I do here, and I'm, sandpaper up there. I know Ken's got a little cart that he hauls around with, but I don't have the room. So everything is right here. I just reach over and grab it.
that. And each one of those has a little.
Each one has got a different grit. I go up to, on these papers, I go up to about 320. And then I go 400, 600, and then for my final is 1200.
For those people who are uninitiated as to what those numbers mean, is it higher numbers coarser?
No, excuse me, higher numbers are finer.
Finer. Okay.
1200 grit is about as close as I want to go. Then I wet sand it, which you get a nice smooth finish out of it. And most of my pieces have around 15 coats of finish.
15 coats of finish?
15 coats of finish.
Isn't that amazing?
You'll see the depth upstairs.
Oh, I can see the
when-
depth, and I know that they're beautiful, and I just want our viewers to see what process this is.
Well,
This is not mass production, folks.
Oh, heck no.
This is just exactly the opposite.
No. Takes longer, actually, to do the finish work on a piece than it does to do the actual...
To turn it.
To turn it, yeah. This piece will probably take me probably a couple of days to rough finish. Then I'll set it on a shelf, let it dry, and then come back, in a couple of months and finish it up, because there's so much water in here, and it will take time to dry. But I'll turn it down to approximately 3/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, and then set it on a shelf, and come back and do the final finish on it.
Do they ever crack and disappoint you terribly?
Oh, yes.
You
Now,
gone
somebody
through-
says it don't. It doesn't happen to them.
What a
They're not,
disappointment.
they're
after
not
you've spent-
turning or anything. Yeah, my discarded pieces become firewood.
Oh, boy.
Fortunately, I
Throw it
don't.
in the fire and cry a lot.
Well, it's all part of the game, but fortunately, I don't. I don't have a lot of waste. I'll put a piece on. I've got some pieces that are drying over here. I mean, not a lot because I'm just out.
Yeah.
But here's a piece that's ready to get finished.
Oh, yes, I can see. You can see how dry it is
Yeah.
now.
This piece came from Florida. This is a wood called tababuya.
That's a new one?
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful wood. The tree is in March, the end of March, is all yellow. Big, beautiful yellow flowers on it. They last for about 2 to 3 weeks.
Huh.
And they were doing some construction. They had to cut one down, so I ended up with a piece of it.
This is when you turned it, or what is that?
That's
date?
when I rough turned it.
Rough turned it. 7/10/03. So
Yeah.
that was in July of this year.
Yeah, and it'll be ready probably in the next couple of weeks now because the moisture content is down to around 6 or 7%. So
How do you know that?
How can you tell?
a little meter.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
You put a little meter in there, and it'll tell you the temp. You know what your percentage is. Now on that big piece there, I put a meter in there, and it'd probably show 100% right now.
Oh, I bet you would, yeah. But I didn't realize you could even do that.
Yeah.
Of course, you'd have to know, right?
Let's do it. Let's get a meter.
Well- My meter
Uh-huh.
is not here right now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Wouldn't
sorry
you know?
about that. Sorry about that, but I can't show it to you now because I lent the thing out, and so
Can you? How does? There are different ways to speed up that drying process, though, right?
yeah, you can use microwaves, kilns. I use a microwave. You see it a little over there.
Yeah.
Throw it in there, and I put it on high heat for about 3 to 4 minutes. Let it cool down. Go back and do it again. It's time consuming, but if you want to rush a piece, you can. I like to air dry them, pretty much. And here's another piece. Excuse me. This is crab apple, or actually it's not crab apple. It's the decorative crab, flowering crab. And this came right off from Olivetti here.
A big crab tree.
This was a big one. And you can see the black that I put on there. It's epoxied. What it's doing is just preventing it from splitting more. And this piece will be ready to turn in another month or so. But I rough turn them down to approximately 3/4 to a half inch
Then you
or
put
an inch.
epoxy on so it won't.
Well, there's a wood sealer on here, on the rim, and it's a wax emulsion that I put on,
Yeah.
and that prevents it from checking. But I can't do it on the inside because wood is moving so much. And this has got a lot of knots in it. You can see on the inside you had 1, 2, 3, there's 4, and 5 right here, and 6. Actually, there's 6. So you've got 6 pieces of branches growing out. So this is actually is a root stump.
Oh, but that's what makes it prettier.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then the inside of that, there was another piece that I turned, and it dried a lot faster than this one.
Yeah,
So-
you can. So what people don't realize
That
that
was given to the guy that gave me the wood. So
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Not a bad idea. A little barter.
Well, that's what I was wondering here. This one here will have a neck on it that's on the lathe right now.
Yeah.
But if you didn't want the neck, you could have probably made 2 bowls out of that one there.
I
So-
could have, yeah. I could have poured it out on the inside. But end grain turning is a lot different than side grain turning.
It is.
Yeah. You get more, I don't know, it's a little difficult.
So what are these pieces over here?
Oh, these are all my chucks, jam chucks I use. This is a chuck I use for my pepper mills. These are used for some of my vases.
But you made all these.
Yeah, these are all handmade, yeah. You know, you need a piece to fit the occasion, so you just turn a hunk of wood and there you go. This one here is a little jam chuck. Now, I turn a little disc, I put it in there, that goes inside of some of my other pieces.
Oh, I see.
This is just a jam chuck, and I'll turn the piece down to, oh, probably a 32nds of an inch.
You gotta be kidding.
Oh, no.
No wonder that one upstairs was translucent.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting close to paper thin at a 32nd.
Yeah, in this particular, there's a particular technique that I use, and that is where I really have to turn it right down to very, very thin. Put it in boiling water so it becomes pliable, and then the rest of it is another technique. It's kind of hard to explain right now.
That's so interesting. Everything's interesting to me. Well, so we've seen most of your tools. Do you have any other tools that you use?
Oh, I use a table saw, I use a bandsaw, the radial arm saw, lathe. I have two heavy-duty routers, planer. I mean, I use them all for wood turning.
What's the biggest piece you brought down here so far? And how many men did it take to...
Well, actually, the biggest piece was a burl that I had, was probably 100 and 150 pounds. And it took two of us to put it up on the lathe.
I would imagine it would.
So I usually get somebody to, dumb enough to come down and help me.
Did that, yeah, come over for a cup of coffee?
I think it costs more than a cup of coffee for that.
Oh, boy.
It's more like probably, a beer or two.
Yeah, but 150 pounds is considerable size. Was that for a big bowl?
That was a big bowl. Actually, there was. I ended up with 4 pieces out of it. So,
did you really?
Yeah.
Do you like to make? Would you rather make the smaller bowls or the?
Actually, whatever the wood is, I have. Makes no difference whether it's large or small. I can show you a piece that's in the finishing stage right now that's small. I've got them right over here on my.
Oh, let's go and take a
on my
look.
table
Yeah, just a second.
Sure.
Before we do that, let's explain again. We've done this in the past. What a burl is. We got one right here.
Oh,
Yeah,
here's
okay,
the
yeah. A
burl.
lot of people wouldn't know necessarily what a burl is.
This was probably 25 or 30 pounds. This is
It starts out as kind of an ugly thing, but you see beauty in it, don't you?
I haven't. Yeah, I see beauty in it. I've been kicking this one around for the last couple of years in the shop, and haven't gotten quite inspired with it yet. It needs some cleaning. It needs some cleaning because it was buried under dirt.
Yeah.
And so it'll be totally dry when I finish it.
It's just,
But,
a burl is a part of nature, isn't it? It's a growth.
It's a growth on a tree, and I'm not really sure how it gets there. If it's from an insect or a mite or whatever.
Sometimes they're on the roots, sometimes they're farther up on the tree.
Well, I just read an article where they had one in North Carolina, I believe. They think it was the largest burl in the United States. It was about 14 or 15 feet above the ground.
Oh my goodness.
On the tree. It was on an oak, and they estimate the burl to be about 6 tons.
I think you ought to put a bid on it.
Well, it's been bidded.
Oh,
Believe me,
yeah. Imagine more than one person would be looking for that one, huh? That's
belonged to one of the guys that in one of the wood turning clubs down there, and he got all his club members to join in and help him cut it up. So they all
he actually did cut it up.
Oh yeah, they all ended up with a piece of it, and which is kind of nice.
Almost
because,
like a Guinness burl, huh?
Well, they said that there was burls on top of burls on top of burls in this thing, so it's got to be some kind of a.
Looks like almost like a fungus sometimes, doesn't it?
I would.
But
I would think so. I don't know.
What do I know? I'm just speculating.
Well,
But they're the beautiful. The burls turn out the beautiful pieces because of.
Oh, they are. Yeah, I've got some pieces over here.
All right,
well,
let's
they're not
take-
burls yet. I mean, my burls are kind of here. Let me turn some lights on.
Okay.
These are my peppermill blanks that I'm working on right
He's
now.
got the wood stove down here,
oh,
boy.
Yeah. Listen, that's where my mistakes go.
That's not a bad idea when it's really cold
And then
outside,
These
huh?
are peppermills that are in the clamp right now.
Okay, let's talk about this process. You laminate it.
Well, I laminate them up. Here's another one. Whoops. Laminate them up and let them set in the press for 24 hours in the clamps.
What kind of glue is that?
This is Type Bond 2. It's
That means
waterproof.
nothing to me, but
It's a waterproof glue, and I've been using it for a number of years, and I've never had any problems with it.
There's so many different kinds of miracle glues
Well-
today. I'm a kind of a nut on glues. I love glues.
Well, Type Bond 2 is about the only one I use,
Really?
and it works really nice. And all of my pieces are guaranteed. If they fall apart, I'll replace it or repair it.
That's wonderful. You don't do much better than that.
Nope.
What's this, a giant vacuum cleaner? What is that?
Yeah, it's a dust collector vacuum
You
cleaner.
got to have one of those.
Oh, yeah.
In
I mean, it's.
this business.
I don't have the setup that I wish I could have, where I could vent it outside and all that. Like, living in the city, I think my neighbors would complain a little bit. But
It's difficult when you have limited space to try to figure out how to do this and keep it,
Yeah.
keep the place from burning down when you got the wood stove going.
don't even say that word. Don't say that
First
word.
time I went into Gadway's trailer, I saw the wood stove, nice and cherry red, and the sawdust about yay deep on the floor, and I shook my head and looked at Calvin and couldn't believe that the place wouldn't just explode. But I guess the good Lord loves wood turners and people like me, because we managed to make it through all right.
Well, I did have a fire 3 years ago in here, and it was a spontaneous combustion type fire.
No kidding.
It was underneath the lathe, not this one, but the other one. And I had just gone down to get my car from being serviced. I was at Marion, they said, I'll be gone 10, 15 minutes. And I had both windows opened, and I had a pile of chips underneath the lathe. Something happened. And I got back, the fire trucks were here, the police cars were here. My gosh, and then, of course, now Marion's totally paranoid about dust in the shop, so I make sure it's cleaned
Was
up.
there much damage?
Yeah. Fortunately, we didn't. The house wasn't burned down, so. But it did
was
burn the whole, damage the lathe. Most of the damage, though, was basically water damage and smoke damage. But enough to scare me. And but
I didn't want to bring up anything unpleasant, but there are risks to almost anything.
yeah.
And I can see the risks involved in this.
Well, she doesn't want me to use the wood stove any longer, so we're going to. I've got an electric heater, and but I'm only down here in basically the winter months from October through December, and then we leave for Florida. So,
Well, do you do this in Florida too?
if I can find if my friends will let me use their lathes,
Oh, I see what you mean.
because some of them have 2 and 3 lathes, so.
It's nice.
So
to
they,
have-
I can
nice to
borrow
have
them.
Little
And
help
they're,
from your
the
friends.
guys are always calling me, hey, you want to come down and turn,
Well,
Well,
it's like,
ask your wife if you can come down and play. So,
you laugh when you say that, but yeah, people call up Mary and say, can Howie come out and play today? But
that's just about what it is, too.
But you know what? What better idea for a hobby, and it actually for a vocation or an avocation than something you love.
Oh, listen, and I'll tell
So
you.
many
there's-
people are going to work every day in jobs they can't stand, and they gripe and moan.
We have doctors in our club, and we have a paraplegic who is a great, great guy, a guy by the name of George Snyder. He's confined to a wheelchair, and he has trouble with his hands a lot, but he's an inventor. And he's invented pieces of wood, or pieces of metal. And he's also a metal lathe worker. And with help from the club members, he has made a lot of little innovations for himself. And he sells them on the internet now. And these are for people that are, confined to a wheelchair. And this guy he's a great wood turner.
We've always had a special bond, if you will, or an association with people who work with wood products. We've done more than one program with wood carvers.
Oh, boy.
And we love some of the things that some of these guys carve. Some of the birds and various things are just incredible. Anything to do with wood.
Oh, I know some of the wood carvers, Kit Boot being one of them.
Oh, well.
He is very good.
You know, when you can improve on nature,
Oh, I know.
that's pretty good, right?
Here's my minimal carving right here. I mean, this is some of the things I try to do. This is a piece of spalted tababuya, and what I'm doing is I'm carving into two different size. This being thicker, this being thicker, and then the lip. And it's got a lot. There's a lot of work to be done on it yet, but this is a piece in the making.
That's truly amazing, and every piece you make is unique in one respect or the other.
I never turn two alike.
Yeah, but even the pepper mills, even though they may be the same size and shape, they're different by virtue of the fact that it's a different piece of wood.
Yeah, and
Different kinds of wood.
And then this is another piece I was telling you about. You asked me about big pieces, small pieces. Well, here's a relatively small piece. This is a piece of elm that was given to me. And
Isn't it nice?
you can see,
Isn't that
talk about
nice?
translucent. So let's see if I get this. Somehow or the other, my light switches are, I don't know, locked in or, there we go.
Oh, look at this. I think you ought to make a lamp out of it. Look at
Well,
that.
this is not, I could make it thinner.
That's
But
beautiful.
this is going to be a nice piece when it's finished.
Oh, yeah.
Right now it's got 2 coats of form base finish on it, and I'll sand it all down, and probably by the end of next week it'll be ready.
It'll still look like that.
Oh,
though,
it'll
right?
look just like
Yeah.
this, except you're gonna have 15 coats of finish on it.
Yeah, that to me is absolutely amazing. So you always have more than one project going at a given time. You'd never be satisfied with working on one thing at a time, would
Oh
you?
no, I go from one thing to another. If I'm putting finish on, I'm usually turning another piece, or I'll get tired of doing something and I'll go to one of my pepper mills. In fact, when I turn pepper mills, I turn probably 6 or 8 of them at a time.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do one, sort of like a semi-production line. I'll turn them all around, and then, from the square blocks, turn them all around, and then I go through the rest of the process.
Now, I see some of the wood, and these are all for pepper mills too.
Yeah,
And
this is
some-
all pepper mills.
Some wood is thicker, some is
Yeah,
thinner.
no, this here is one solid piece of wood. This is Honduras rosewood.
It's pretty.
It's beautiful wood. And I've not quite figured whether I will make this a solid piece or cut it up and use it in different in different pieces. Like here's this piece right here. Okay, I've got rosewood. The thin. This is a thicker piece of rosewood. Here's another one. And then in the center of it, I've got canary wood and walnut.
That's what adds the character.
Yeah, and
Different
when it's
kind.
turned, it'll be a pretty piece. And these are more burls, maple burls that I'm getting ready to turn, and some more cherry burls down on the bottom here.
Oh yeah, I see pieces. What are these little ones
Oh,
for?
those are knots from the Norfolk Island pine. These are the pieces when I cut them off. This is done at the when they log the log, and then when I strip the bark off, there's this much bark on them. So what I'll do is I'll take these, put them aside, and sometimes I get inspired to do a different kind of a piece. I do some with epoxy, and I'll put the knots in them. It's kind of neat.
Oh yeah, put the knot in the wood.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah.
You take a bland piece of wood, and you put these knots into it, and it turns out to be
I
kinda
see.
neat.
I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a very clever idea. But there are actually other things you could make out of pieces this size.
Oh, yeah,
like
I could
bottle
make,
stoppers or.
Yeah, like pencils, pens. It's another little thing altogether I do.
Well, when you many of the people who do wood turning and wood carving go to shows, either to show their work or to sell their work. Do you do that at all?
Yes, I do.
Like what?
I go to shows. I do probably 6 shows a year. I do 3 summers, and this year I'm going to be doing 7. I did 3 this summer, and I'll have 2 in October, 1 in November, and 1 in December.
Now, what kinds of venues are these? Are they fairs? What are they?
Well, they're actually art and craft shows. And I also, I donate a piece to the Council of the Arts every year. And they use that for an auction. This year I donated a Norfolk Island pine vase. And it went very well. They received it well. And it sold for a good price.
That's wonderful.
So I was really pleased, I mean, I don't get any money from it. It's just that
It pleases you to see that.
Yeah, and
people would treat it as a work of art.
it's art appreciation and
Well, each one of these pieces is a work of art, no matter how you. And I bet that pleases you to go into somebody's house and see one of your pieces in
Oh,
their
yeah.
favorite place on the mantle or on the buffet.
plus also you go to somebody's house and they've got one of your salad bowls, which I do a lot of. I make a lot of salad bowls.
Different sizes.
Yes. Again, it all depends upon the size of the timber that I get. I like turning cherry because it's a real nice wood. It's very stable. And so if I hear of anybody's got a cherry tree that they're cutting down, I usually am
You're
right there.
standing right there. Well, we talked about that before, about how we're doing history as we do this show. But this is going to be the Howie Caron legacy. After, you and I plan to live for at least 100 years apiece. And Calvin about 96 or 97.
Calvin would be standing there with
More.
he'd be standing there with his camera stuck to his shoulder.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of things planned for many years in the future. But in any case, after we all turn to dust, they're going to be, a lot of your handiwork is going to be still around.
I would hope so.
For generations.
I would hope so.
And you've seen, you wonder how these guys who worked in 150 years ago, how they did it with
With the work,
the equipment they had to deal with compared to these wonderful new.
there's a gentleman up in Altona. He's got a treadle lathe. It's really antique.
Wow.
I dearly love to have it. I've been trying to talk him into getting rid of it. If he doesn't use it, But,
We're talking about treadle. We're talking about the old sewing machines.
You
where
got
the-
it, exactly,
where the-
yeah.
you got to make your feet go.
Well, this is where you really get your exercise.
Manpower.
It's aerobic exercise.
Yeah.
It was-
Well, we've seen
you-
those
you-
kinds of lathe, and it's
you're getting your muscles in your legs and you're getting your muscles in your arms by turning. So no, it's quite a unique piece. And
Is that a commercial lathe or something he made?
no, I think it was a spindle lathe, and it's got quite a long bed on it. It's about 6 foot bed, 6 or 8 foot bed, and I've seen it twice, and really would I'd like to get one, just to see what it would be like.
Does he actually make
Where
things
the heck
with
would
it?
I put it in the
Oh,
shop?
I don't know. You you'll find a way. If you have to put a little addition, you got to.
Listen, I have a friend of mine. He's got this beautiful bandsaw, and he's got low ceilings like we do. Well, he put it in his house, and he actually cut through the floor.
Oh,
Get this. It's got a 4-foot wheel on it. Cut through the floor, and built a china cabinet over the top.
you gotta be kidding! That's like Lynn Wilkie in his pipe organ in Peru, this giant pipe organ, and they had to do a few modifications in the house, and you got pipes, lateral, horizontal, vertical pipes everywhere. But you have to adapt things for your hobby, and I think it's really neat. And then I did a story about Lynn and how he went to fish something out of the back or fix something, and he got stuck upside down in the back of this between the organ and the wall. And they had to call the emergency personnel to get him out, and he was very embarrassed and admonished me never to tell anybody.
Oh my!
Guess what?
I don't. North Country knows about this one, right?
Yeah, you'd have to be at a terrible disadvantage not to have known about what happened to Lynn Wilkie. But I like it. What else have you got down here that we haven't seen? Do you ever turn any really big stuff like posts for porticos or?
I've turned a Yule post.
Have you really?
Yeah, but no, I don't have many calls for spindle turnings.
You don't.
No.
So you haven't really played with it that much. Huh?
I can do it.
Oh, I know you can do it.
It's,
I've seen
it's
what
just
you
a
can
matter.
do.
But spindle turning is. There is somebody he's asked me to do some pieces for him, but I haven't heard back from him, so it'll be a while yet, I'm sure.
Now, do you have, are you on the internet? Do you have a website or anything? Or
I have a website just starting up. It's called woodpilewoodturnings.com. And how I
like
got
that.
this name.
let me see, that's
when I-
about this long.
It's a long
Woodpile
one.
wood turning.
But how I started with the name, and this is what I call my little business, is Woodpile Wood Turnings. When I first started turning, we were burning firewood in our fireplace and also wood stove down here, and I didn't really have any real nice wood to work with. So I went out in the woodpile, and I found some nice spalted pieces of maple, and that's how I started.
Oh,
And
got to start somewhere.
it was, I said, well, I can call my business Wood Turnings, but there are too many woodturnings.com, so I went with Woodpile Wood Turnings. And I know it's a mouthful.
That's great. Woodpile wood turnings. It just kind of rolls off
Well,
the
the
tongue. doesn't it?
website is up, but it's not the way I want it yet. It's got more work to be done on it, but it's there, and you can access it.
Well, you talked about your friend down south that was 80-some years old that had 1,000 pieces.
Well, he's not my friend. I've never met the guy.
Oh, you've never actually met
Pinky,
him?
No, I've never met Pinky Martin. I've heard about him, and I pulled him up on his website, which I don't think he has any longer.
Obviously, he did this or has been doing it
Been
for
doing
a
it for a number of years,
long
yeah.
time. And the point I'm getting at is, do you have a lot of orders ahead? Do you have people who meet you at these craft fairs and say, "Hey, I'd like so and so for Christmas for my wife"?
That will be coming up very shortly. I've had a couple already. A couple out of Virginia sent me an email, and they wanted a salad bowl, which I sent them. And I've had a lady from Massachusetts order 3 peppermills. So
This peppermill thing's going to turn into
I'm
me.
having fun with it. I mean, it's just, I don't make a heck of a lot because I spend most of it going back into wood, and
Yeah.
this load that's going to be coming is going to be a little bit on the high end. So I'm not waiting for Mary to scream at me.
You're gonna the old lathes are going to be humming well into the.
Well,
into
actually, it's going to be
midnight
the
hour.
lathe, and what I want to do is I want to replace my bandsaw because I do an awful lot of resawing, and because I'll take the 4/4 wood and I'll resaw it down. If I have to have real special work done, I take it over to my buddies, John, and he'll resaw it for me. And then I put it through the planer and get it the thickness that I really want. A lot of it, if I can resaw it, like a 1-inch piece of wood, I'll get 3 pieces out of it. Usually run down to about 3/8 of an inch thick, and then I run it through the planer, and then
Well,
I put my tools to work.
what is this the planer?
This
over
is
here?
my planer. Yeah, it's a little portable planer. It's Powermatic. This is my second one, and as time goes, I put more money into the tools, and it gets bigger and better. But I'm limited as to space, so
Yeah.
I have to go with mostly portable tools, if I can.
That's okay too. I just want to explain the process to people because somebody sees one of your bowls, or they'll go to I won't name any local department stores, but they'll see a set of wooden bowls
Oh yeah.
made commercially, and they'll see the price on them. Then they'll see
Why
something.
would I pay that?
Why would I want to pay? And then they see a program like this and say, "Holy cow, Martha! Look what this guy has! 15 coats! Come on!" And then they finally
They're all done
realize.
by hand. They're not, and I don't spray anything. I use a variety of finishes, and they're all pretty good finishes. Most of them are food safe. Those that are not food safe, I won't use them on any food safe or food bowls or anything. Like I don't use lacquer on any.
Oh, you don't?
No, I use lacquer, but I don't use it on any food serving bowls.
Well, that's a point. And some of the things you make aren't waterproof, so you couldn't fill it up with punch. That's for sure.
Well, actually, you could put water in this after 15 coats of finish. You could
I
do it
would
whole
think you
water.
could put acid in there and it wouldn't go through 15 coats.
And I use Formby's, and I also use Formby's tongue oil, and I also use water locks Those are both food safe. And I also use a mixture of beeswax and mineral oil. I heat it up till it becomes like a gel, and then apply it onto the pieces, like my salad bowls or my cutting
with
boards.
a brush or by hand?
I put it on with a brush, or I actually put it on by hand. If it's because it's really relatively thick, you wouldn't want to put it on with a brush. And I use a clean rag and just put it on. And
Who would ever guess? I guess you have to find your own combinations, what works best for you, right?
right.
You
And it,
learn things from other people and reading and.
but like my cutting boards, they're all done with the mineral oil and beeswax, and the same
'Cause
with.
they have to be pretty impervious, don't they? You don't want them to be able to, because you're cutting up a lot of wet stuff and
Right.
vegetables and.
I'll tell you, she's got four or five boards. In fact, when we go upstairs, I'll show you one of the big butcher block tables that I built for her.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I love that stuff.
So you'll see that. But what do you
Let's
want?
do it.
You want to go upstairs?
Let's go upstairs.
Okay.
Okay, what were you doing there, Howie?
Okay, I'm just shaping up the top of it so I can get a hook tool inside of it.
Okay, because we wanted to show the process of how you work inside a piece, which I don't think we've ever shown on camera before.
Okay, well, we've got it right here.
And we should point out we're still downstairs, even though we said.
Yeah, we said we are going to be upstairs. There's always one more chapter, and Calvin said, yeah, let's see how you do it inside. We talked about a hook tool and talked about all this other stuff.
Let me. These are some of the hook tools that I use. These were built for me. My son-in-law's brother, Ronnie Briette, who's a welder, and I brought him up a couple of sketches, and I says to him, I said, can you make these for me? So he says, sure. So I'll show you how it works. I need another tool. I
Okay,
need a handle, actually.
take your time. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Well, this is I've got a whole set of these coring tools. They're quite interesting. They're designed by a Canadian. Here. Put the tape on them to keep the
Keep the sawdust out of the hole.
well, not so much that as to keep these little screws from flying out.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, that's a good idea too, huh? When they loosen up?
Yeah.
And then you lose it? They go
Yeah.
in the wood pile somewhere?
And then you go into the floor right here and you can't find them.
a
So
little set.
you can see right here, if you lose those little devils, you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to take this off here because just in case it kicks back on me or something.
Yes.
I don't want to get
We're going to be
Speared
impaled,
by-
huh?
get speared by the end stock, the tailstock. Okay, I'm just trying to make some adjustments here because the outrigger has to, have to be relatively.
interesting. I see the reason for that's to add stability, the outrigger.
Right, it keeps the tool from twisting.
Yeah.
If I, had to hold, I really
It'd
would
be
have
very
to
hard
bear
to keep
down
it
onto
straight. Yeah, what a great
Whereas-
idea.
It just prevents the tool from twisting on you.
Oh, I see.
So what I'll do is I'll follow the form down, and I'll get the wall thickness this looks like about 1/8 of an inch right here. Maybe just a little bit more, but I don't know, Calvin, can you get in there and see what the,
We're gonna find
here,
out.
I'll slide it over here.
And then you go all the way down as far as you
All the
want to
way
go
down, right to the base
with the
of it.
same tool?
Yeah.
Aha.
Now I have another
How
tool.
can you tell how thick it is when you're getting down this far?
Okay. Well, I do a lot of measuring,
Do you?
Yeah.
Stop and take a look at it?
right? And I also have another tool. I can use this particular tool right here, which is also
Oh,
well,
wow.
this is just a different configuration. I'd have to set this all
Boy,
up.
you could drill a well with that son of a gun.
Oh yeah, and this is basically this is your outrigger right
Yeah.
here. Okay, this part right here there's another tube that comes out over it, and there's a little laser light at the end of it.
Oh, pretty clever.
Right. And what I do with the laser light is I'll put the laser light approximately 1/8 of an inch from the tip of the cutting tool, and then put it inside. Of course, now not with this particular piece. I could switch it around, and this is for larger vessels, which I probably will be using on that
Yeah.
Norfolk Island pine. And what it does, as soon as a laser light hits the out edge of the piece that's on the lathe, then I know that I've got 1/8 of an inch thickness on the inside.
Very clever.
So it's a measuring device.
That's the way I would have done it.
Oh, yeah, every time, right?
But
Oh, that's beautiful.
again, I can't take credit for it. There's a guy that designed this guy. The guy that did that, his name is Lyle Jameson, and I met him last year down at the symposium in Rhode Island. And I thought, that's pretty clever. So I came home and I made my own with this particular tool, which is one I made. And
Oh, look at this.
I have a laser light also for this particular tool. This one also is for real heavy, for heavy pieces.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this because you and I discussed this before I even got here today. Howie's not just a guy that learns everything off the internet and watching television and reading books. You go to quite a few different seminars, symposiums to see what the big guys are talking about, don't you?
Right. Also belong to an association, American Association of Woodturners, which Ken also belongs to. And we get a lot of our information from these, from these magazines and from the association. And it's a good outfit. If you're a woodturner, you better have some kind of access to these people.
Have you ever tried to publish any pictures of your work?
Not yet. It's in the works, but I'm not
Not ready
I'm
to
not
divulge
ready.
what prestigious
I'm not
magazine?
ready yet. It's just, I'm sort of low-keyed, as you
yeah.
well know.
We're getting you keyed up a little bit here today, but we know that. Yeah, you're.
And
humble.
I try not to
I know. Wave the flag, blow
Yeah.
the horn. Yeah, we know.
it's
But it's obvious that you're having a ball every time you're
Oh, yeah.
down here.
I get so totally immersed in here that I don't care what's going on around the world. In
That's
fact, my poor boat's suffering from it.
but that's the. Actually, that whole thing was an experiment to see if you were awake. Our battery died right in the middle of the sentence, so in midstream, I forgot what we were talking about. Calvin reminded me you were saying your sailboating is suffering because you're spending so much time doing this.
That's correct. And I've used it a little bit more than I did last year, but it's still, the poor thing is suffering down there. I think I'm going to probably take off next week for about three days and go sailing. So
That's a good
I'll leave my my wood shop, but you know, with
So
a little
actually,
trepidations.
actually, we came up upstairs to end our program where we started it, and in the process, Marion showed us a very nice card that you got from Sarah Moulton.
Right.
Isn't that nice?
Thank
So the little gift
Yep.
made it.
I sent it to her to replace the one that she gave away on television. I think it was probably March or April. She gave one of her peppermills away to this lady on the Oprah Winfrey show,
Hey, yes, it was.
and because this lady had been trying to get a hold of one of those Pinky Martin mills, and so Sarah was kind enough to share one of hers, so I figured I'd be kind enough to share one of ours.
That's a pretty clever idea, you know. And it's also a very nice nice thank you card that she sent back.
That was very nice. I wasn't sure she would ever get it or not. We just took a chance and sent it to the Food Network down in New York, and apparently she was able to get it. So
Guess what? Sarah Moulton is real people too.
she is very nice lady too.
Isn't that great? All right, we're upstairs to look at some of these things and talk a little more about it. I don't mind telling you, I'm easily impressed, but I was astounded when I saw some of this stuff, because this is a finished product.
This
This
is.
is the stuff with how many coats of
15 coats of
of
finish.
finish.
You can see the depth in most of the pieces when you look at them. This is, by the way, that Norfolk Island pine that I had on the lathe
Oh
originally.
yes, right.
Okay, and this is what I'm trying to succeed in doing, explaining about the knots and everything,
Yes.
is to put the knots on the top so that it stands out. It looks like they were probably placed in there by hand, but no, this is put on by the good Lord. And these are some of the pieces right here.
Just absolutely stunning.
Now, remember I was talking about the spalting
Yes.
on the black in it? Okay, this is an example of what I'm talking about here. This is a fresh piece of Norfolk Island pine with very little or no spalting. This is probably the only piece of spalting in there. And so this is, was relatively fresh when I turned it. And so there's not a lot of color into it. Where I think
But
the
it's
character-
beautiful because of that, I think.
Well, I think the character, of the piece, like here's a bowl
Look at this.
that you can actually, it's translucent. If you
You
can
can see light through
put
it.
through, I don't know if you can see
I
it.
can see it
through
in the
there.
corner. Sure, I can.
You turn this thing.
Turn it a little bit more that way.
Now you're saying you let it age, you'll get that spalting?
Well, it has to be under certain conditions, and hot and humid will do it. And I'll tell you, we had some hot and humid, and especially if it's encased in plastic, it will spalt a lot faster. That's one of the reasons why I keep it that way.
Is this kind of like the wood decaying? Is that what it's?
It's the
if you left
start.
left it
It's the
alone?
start of a decay. If I left it alone, it would turn punky and it would be totally useless. But right now, all the pieces that I've got in storage are all under cover, and they'll hold for a couple of years.
Each one is absolutely unique, and now that we saw the process, we know how you got that done inside with that little tiny hole. I use the example of the ship in the bottle. This is particularly beautiful.
That's Norfolk Island pine also.
It's absolutely
In fact,
spectacular.
I think without a doubt, I'm probably the only wood turner in the north that has Norfolk Island pine.
No kidding.
I have never seen it from any other wood turners. So,
Well, we'll be careful not to disseminate this videotape very far then. They're all just absolutely beautiful. Every single one is unique. This looks like a piece of pottery that was dug up
well, this is
from ancient
well,
Greece.
Basically, it was dug up.
I'm
This
sure
is
it was.
it's a manzanita burl, and it grows underground in California. This is where
Oh.
they harvest it. And I purchased 2 pieces of the manzanita when I was down in Rhode Island last summer at the symposium, and kicked it around the shop for about 6 months, and then decided to turn it. And wasn't sure exactly what it was going to look like, but I was very pleased with the
Oh,
results.
it's absolutely wonderful.
And here's a burl, a red oak burl. And
Almost
this
looks
is
like a face. You need another eye on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat? I love it.
Normally, these pieces sit on my computer stand because I really like them. This one also.
Well, that's special, of course. It almost looks like an apple when it's been cored, doesn't it? The top of it,
There's
or
a little bit.
or a flower, or you can imagine a whole lot of things. But it's
There's a lot
hard
of
to.
carving in there and sanding. A
Oh,
lot of
my.
hand sanding in there.
Yeah.
But that's a nice piece. In fact, I think it's my wife's favorite piece.
Really? Well, you know how it caught my eye the second I came in here. You talked about the lazy Susan. Would you call that a cutting board?
Oh no, this is a Lazy Susan. Cutting
Okay.
boards are
That's different.
Cutting boards are right here.
Okay.
This is a cutting board that is very usable and it's treated with the mineral oil beeswax finish.
You told me.
And in the short, I'll bring you into the kitchen and show you the cutting boards my wife has been using, and also the butcher block table I was telling you
And
about.
you make these in various sizes.
I make them in all sizes. I just had a special order for 24 by 16 by 24.
Wow, that would almost cover a whole
Yeah,
countertop, wouldn't it?
it was a big board. And
these are small
my
ones?
small ones. They're little lemon boards.
Oh, okay. Cheese/lemon.
Right.
I love it.
And we were talking about the durable finish. Now, this piece has been done for about 10 years. No, less than that, probably 8 years. And it has the 15 coats of finish on it. And as you can see, and it's been used a lot. And the finish is just like it was when I put it on. And the same way with this cherry salad bowl here. My wife uses both of them all the time. And this one here was a wood shop reject.
Was it really?
Right, and you can see the big crack in it right here. And so I replaced or repaired it. And I says to Marion, would you like to use this? I can't sell it. So, sure. She puts the salad in it. She'll make the salad up ahead of time, put it in the refrigerator. And it's been abused, but used.
Used and abused, huh?
And it's still in good shape.
That's absolutely beautiful. You said you want to show us some things in the kitchen?
Sure. I'd like to show
Okay.
you the butcher block table I made for my wife last year, because that's one of the things on her honey-do list.
Ooh, well, let's go take a look at it. Just don't ask me to lift this over my head, Howie. I'm old. Sure. So Marion wanted something to put utensils in.
You're not much older than I am, by the way.
Oh, my. I'm pretty old. So you got oh,
Older
beautiful.
on the side.
And obviously you've made the handles on every one of these, right?
Oh, not quite.
Oh, okay. So anyway, this is a butcher block.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously made it from, those aren't quite square.
No, they're approximately 1.5 inches square. And but on the ends, it wouldn't be square because you have to saw it
Yeah.
down. So
So how does one make a butcher block? Tell me the process.
well, first off, the wood, and this is all end grain, so I have to saw up planks of wood into the size that I want, plane it down to the finished size, and then cut them into. I did this with I think it was 12 and a half inch lengths, and then laid them up, and then started sawing into 3-inch thickness, which is what the thickness of the top is, and then start gluing it. And the process took me about 2 weeks because of the gluing, because I could only glue up so many sections at a time, and then the hand sanding and the power sanding. It was probably the most tedious job going. And then on the bottom, I made the legs. Those are done on a lathe. As you can see them.
yeah, they're beautiful.
I mean, it's simple, but they were done on a lathe, and they're laminated maple and black walnut.
And you sunk all the, you put it together with screws?
The top is, no,
The legs?
the legs are put together on the base right here.
Yeah.
Okay, I made the frame. The frame is, there's another frame on the inside here. It's what they call a floating frame.
Oh,
And so the wood moves. So this is hooked onto the frame, and then the legs are hooked onto the box here. You can see the dowels in it.
that's beautiful. When did you make this?
Made that last year.
And, you know,
Again,
when
my boat is suffering.
when any look at all, that'll be around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you think this is a lightweight thing, it's very, very heavy.
It probably weighs close to 100 pounds.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
I know it took my son-in-law and I to bring it up.
Yeah.
He carried the heaviest part.
Did he? You got him on the downside? Oh, boy, here's another
Here's
cutting board.
Another cutting board right there.
That's a nice heavy one.
Uh-huh.
I imagine that gets a lot of use.
That gets used on probably about 10 or 12 times a day.
No kidding, isn't that great?
And I treat
See
it.
another one back here.
There's another one. There's another one right there.
Yep. Oh, a little one.
Yeah, and then here's another one that I built to set over the sink.
Oh, isn't that pretty? Look at this.
It sits right on the sink here, so that when I'm cutting turkey or large roast, the drippings will go in here, but the overflow will drop into the sink.
I love it. That is absolutely beautiful. What a great idea.
Well, I don't know if it's my idea, but
Well, you know,
I
people
figured
with people double sinks in trailers. I noticed when I bought my trailer, it had a wood cutting board
Right.
that exactly fits the top of one side of the sink, so you can cover that side of the sink.
well, I have one on my sailboat also that I made for the because I've got a double sink, and so I made it for one section of the sink.
It's
And it's,
absolutely
I
beautiful.
mean, I've got cutting boards all over the place here, and I do I make a lot of them.
You do.
Yes, I make a lot.
Well, what do you sell the most of now?
I don't know. I don't know.
It varies when you go.
It varies.
You do when you take a show. Do you just pick a few of? How do you
Usually,
do
I take most of my stock with me.
you do?
Yeah.
Most of the stuff you have.
Yeah, and it's all I kept in boxes downstairs. I have those big plastic storage containers.
Find a fairly attractive way to display it.
My wife does that.
Very
She
good
is,
at that
yeah,
part of
she
it.
is, she is the display person. I just do the setup. She puts the stuff where it belongs. And no, I've sold a lot of cutting boards, a lot of bowls this summer, and I've had quite a few pepper mills I've sold.
I think the pepper mills are going to do it. For
They're
me.
neat.
I really did.
Oh, here's one. This is one that I made for my wife. I bought the wood in Florida.
Oh,
This
my.
is called crab wood. It has nothing to do with
Unbelievable.
crab trees or anything. It's a rare wood, and
Look at this.
so I had enough for two. And I made this one and brought it upstairs and showed it to her, and she says, "This is not leaving the house."
Yep, this is mine.
So this is hers, and I had another one, and a lady from Lake Placid owns it.
do you? I notice a number on the bottom. Do you number every piece?
Every piece is numbered and signed. This one here is, no, it says 10-9. Okay, 10 is the height, and 9 was the series. So
Okay.
they're up into the 30s now.
And you sign your whole name or initial?
No,
or-
I sign H.H. Caron.
Yep.
And then I usually put the name of the wood that's on the bottom.
That's a good idea too.
It's if you notice all my other pepper mills, they all have the type of woods and the number and my signature. Actually, I don't sign them, I print them. I'm not a very good signer.
Have you ever had anybody come up and say, "Howie, I got an idea," and you say, "Okay, here we go," and with an idea for a piece that you really didn't want to tackle?
I've had that happen, and I've tackled it, but
And
they're few and far between.
I imagine people have some novel ideas. They see what you can do and then say, "Can you do so and so?" And it's interesting.
Well, again, I don't do two pieces alike because the wood is never the same.
Yeah.
Everything is, Mother Nature has its own way of doing things. I've got some beautiful redwood burls that I haven't even tackled yet, and they're quite unique. They're very spiny, and I don't know. Have you ever seen a redwood burl?
Didn't we see one downstairs? Didn't you show me one downstairs? No?
We had one downstairs, yeah.
I think you showed me.
Can I get a piece of wood and show it to you?
Oh, sure.
Because I mean, you're gonna get a whole new idea on what different kinds of burls there are around the world.
Okay. We'll be
So-
here with a redwood in just a minute. Well, in a fraction of a second, our superhero has returned. And what is this?
This is a piece of redwood burl, and apparently it was quite a large piece.
Tip it up so Calvin can see the nooks and crannies, and it's almost like a mountain range or a...
Yeah. This is going to be, again, a unique piece. I'm not quite sure exactly. It will definitely be a vase.
It will.
But how is it going to look? I'm not quite sure yet.
It is unique. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
So this will be, it'll be a one-of type of piece.
Yeah,
And I've got another piece similar to it.
that's truly amazing. So now we got a new appreciation for burls, especially for redwood burls. That's really,
Well,
really quite
any kind
nice.
of burls are, they're rare. They're not the most common. And wood turners, of course, love to get their hands on them.
Yeah. I know how that goes.
Well, actually, furniture makers also.
They do?
They make some beautiful furniture now. In some of the cars, they use real wood. The expensive cars that are used with either cherry burl or maple burl.
Maple burl I've seen.
And cherry burl you've seen.
Yeah, cherry burl.
Yeah.
What a bit Rolls Royce maybe?
Good possibility to be a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or
Yeah.
one of those.
All those things that are
$150,000, $200,000
that are way out of our price range.
But this is, a unique piece, and it will be interesting to turn it.
How would people find your website? You said it just came up.
It's up, but it's not complete.
Well, we want to watch it in progress.
In progress.
How do
Okay,
we,
it's
just your name or what?
it's www.woodpilewoodturnings.com.
Okay,
Turnings.
wood turnings.
Wood turnings, INGS.
That's absolutely terrific, and it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Just like your life and my life and Calvin's life.
If somebody wants to throw him a burl once in a while.
Oh, I would be more than happy to.
yeah,
In fact, throw me a burl and I'll make something for you.
That's what a
That's,
wonderful idea.
Because I usually, it's a great barter system. It
Yeah.
saves a lot. It's, and it's fun. And it's, somebody will have a piece that's probably totally unique and can't be replaced.
Yeah. Howie has a lot of other interests in his life. We've told a lot of the story today, and it's a good story to tell. I hope you've enjoyed it, as we always enjoy eliciting these life stories of people, your friends and neighbors in the North Country. Were you born and brought up here?
I was born and brought up in Clinton County. My parents were living in Lion Mountain, moved to Redford, where I spent my teen years. Left there when I was 18 and joined the Navy, and came back, moved to Plattsburgh. I really haven't gone too far.
You're a North Country guy.
I am. I worked in the prison system for 5 years and then became a state trooper.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
The dinosaur dinosaur club.
Yeah, we are, aren't we? Marion made herself very scarce, even though she was outspoken with me on the telephone. She commanded me to come here and do this show, and she didn't have to twist my arm very far. As soon as I found out you did wood turning, I said we're going to be on our way. And Calvin agreed with enthusiasm that we wanted to see your things and hear your story, and it's a great story. I'm always inspired by such creativity and wonderful talent. I don't know what you plan for the rest of this year. Anything really special coming up?
No, we have, like I say, we have 4 shows coming up. We have one at the Crate. I think the first part of October. I have one over in St. Albans. I think the second or third weekend in October, and then I'm taking off going down to Cayman Islands on a dive trip with a buddy.
Well, I forgot about the diving until I looked at this amulet around your neck. Yeah, you've
I've been
Done a
diving for
lot of
about
diving.
12 or 13 years now.
Eddie Scullin, of course, is a real good friend of ours, and they've been doing a lot of diving in the Valcor project, and we're very impressed with so far what they've done over
I
there.
understand he's quite a diver. I've never met the guy, so
Come on.
no.
Well, maybe we can mastermind a meeting.
Well, that would be kind of fun.
He's a wonderful guy. He's done a lot of serious diving with the state police, and with your background, I'm sure you'd love to meet him. He's a good friend. And we know divers all the way back to the old days when Frank Pabst used to say, put those tanks on, Gordy, and just jump off the boat. Everything will be fine.
Right.
And as I was heading for the bottom and saying, what have I got myself into? So, yeah, I've been diving a few times in Lake Champlain in the dark ages when Cousteau would look over the boat and say, no, these guys will never make it.
See, I don't particularly care about diving Lake Champlain. It's too cold, too damp, and too dark.
And you can't
too
see.
dark, rather.
You can't see.
Of course, it's damp, but it's too cold and too dark. And I've got the wetsuits and all, but it's just there's nothing down the sea.
It's very hard to see. There are a lot of good things on the bottom of Lake
Oh.
Champlain, as you know.
Yeah.
We've done a whole series of programs on things that have been brought up from Lake Champlain, not the least of which is that wonderful, huge anchor that's on display in
that's-
Plattsburgh City Hall that
gorgeous.
came from the Confiance or the Confiance, the British flagship. But there's lots more, except that you can't see it
That's exactly
until
it.
you run into it.
I mean, you're diving blind, basically.
Anybody that's dived in the beautiful blue waters of the
Caribbean.
Caribbean and
oh,
other places where you can see, 100 yards, 200 yards,
yes, that's good, 200-300 yards.
and where the coral is absolutely spectacular.
We were
That's diving like you can't believe until you've done it.
diving in the Cayman Islands. I was there in '92 with a friend from Texas, and we were at 100 feet, and I was looking down, and I could see a hammerhead shark. It looked like a minnow, and it wasn't a minnow. It was probably about 12 or 14 feet long.
Okay, how quick can I swim to the surface? Oh, it's a lot of fun. That's a whole other part of your life, but it's a great enjoyment.
It is. It's
Isn't
so much.
Listen, I want to thank you again and thank Marion and thank your parents for bringing up a pretty good boy. And we'll anxiously watch your website. And anytime you do something spectacular and new, invite me over because I want to see it.
Will do.
Thanks so much, Harry. Harry. Oh, my God. Howie, thanks so much. And smooth sailing.
Thank you. Well,
Pay a
it'll be
little
smooth.
attention to the...
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday look like great sailing days, so I think that's what we're
I
going to.
love it. You're out of here.
I'm out of here.
And who knows where we're going to be next time with Harry or Howie or George or Phil or anything but Sue. Who knows where we're going to